What I was going to say was, you have people who actually believe that World War II and the Holocaust itself was a Zionist plot, that the Zionists orchestrated the Holocaust so that they could create the state of Israel.
Of course. We
Yeah.
invented fire so that, I don't know, you can just carry
Why
on.
does the
We
state
invented
of
everything.
Israel such a threat to
We
everyone?
invented the
Like, why
wheels
is
to create road accidents to kill Christians.
even though you guys use wheels too?
Yeah, our wheels, we have special wheels. We don't sell them to anyone
Yeah,
else.
that's right. You guys have magic wheels.
Yes.
One big thing they do is they point to George Soros as an example of the globalist Jews. What do you guys say about that trope? Like the Soros thing, like because they literally like
Well,
he's just
Soros is
somehow
genuinely funding some really shitty movements. Okay, but we
yes.
have Jews on the other side funding stuff that is the opposite of what Soros is funding. So
Yeah.
Netanyahu's son called Soros Israel's number one enemy.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like
but
there's
but
so
like
many
we have
anti-Israel Jewish people
we
in
have
this.
the same groups that Soros funds are being funded by other billionaires who are not Jewish, right? But you don't hear about them, right?
No. The same with the Epstein thing and the Weinstein thing.
What do we
News.
do about this? There's no evidence that could convince any of these people that they're wrong. If I say
No.
they're anti-America, and if I show them a poll that shows Jews are pro-American, you're like, guess where that poll came from? It came from the Jews, right?
It
So
actually came
it's
from Pew Research, his American company, but it's probably
so
controlled by
okay.
Jews.
Well,
But I
America
think
is
Oh
controlled
yeah.
by Jews.
The galaxy is controlled by Jews.
trying to convince these people, because I think they are too far gone, we should focus on the people that we still can
It's
influence.
the facts like Israel love America more than anyone else. They make about 40% of your technology. You'll be screwed without Israeli technology.
But that doesn't work because if you say the technology was made by the Jews, are like, yeah, that's how they're listening to us. They're in our
Oh yeah.
phones, they're in our
Palantir.
computers.
Exactly. So they're listening to you. So you better be careful.
Maybe if we lose them, we should just threaten them. Like, hey, you better not speak against the
Yeah.
Jews because they're
I
watching.
know
Yeah.
where you
We're
are.
watching.
Yeah.
Apparently, we teamed up with the French to take
Oh,
Candace out. So that's what she says on Wednesdays. She says that.
oh, by the way, do you know what the best response to how could you defeat the Jews are if they're so powerful? I just figured out what the response would be. The response would be, we have Jesus on our side. And no matter how
He's a
powerful
Jew.
they are,
Well, he's a
no, it's
Jew.
not. Okay.
It's all Jesus is just a Jewish conspiracy to subvert the goyim.
You know what? Maybe we could fight religion. If well, like you guys hate Jews, well, guess what? Islam and Christianity came from Jews. So
The story about Kaib was like telling Muhammad stories from the Talmud and the Bible. Have you heard this one? You know
no,
about
which
this
one?
character? There's a story about a guy called Kaib who was
Okay.
Jewish, and because there used to be the Haimar kingdom, the Haimar kingdom where Yemen is now, it used to be Jewish. So
Yes,
where
Yemen
Yemen,
was the
yeah. So this Kaib is probably Yaakov or Jacob, but they call him Kaib, and he was a
Yaqub.
descendant of this Haimar kingdom, probably, and he used to come to Muhammad's family home and tell Muhammad as a teenager stories from the Bible about Moses parting the sea, the big stories. The idea is that this is where Muhammad got all the stories and he got it mixed up because he wasn't really listening. Because he mixes up two Miriams, doesn't he? And then there's a whole bunch of things that are mixed up in the Quran about when he retells the biblical story.
He also says that the Jews worshipped Ezra as the son of God. Where he got that, I don't know. I've heard David Wood talk about that. He thinks that the Jews were just fucking with him, and Muhammad was just so stupid. He just believed everything he heard. It's a good theory.
This is why some white nationalists are anti-Christian, and I think the proper way to the white man's religion is like North mythology, like Thor and Odin. That's what they should go to for religion. That's the white man's religion, not Christianity.
Yeah, a lot of them are. There's a huge crew of them.
Well, I think there's something kind of nice seeing people like return back to their roots. Like I want to see a Zoroastrian Iran.
Samantha, you're amazing. So Samantha, you're Jewish, and we're talking about anti-Jewish people going back to roots. I'm like, oh my god, that's so nice. They're going back to the roots. I know it's about hating me, but let's focus on the positive. That's actually kind of sweet.
It's not hating you. See, like Zoroastrian Iran, like it would be cool. Like it's kind of sad. Like
cool.
Restoring what Islam took from you guys.
The cultures before Islam took over, the cultures they destroyed are so beautiful. Like I hope they can revive some of that.
Do you know the stories
like revive
that
Zoroastrian.
the stories the English wrote about the Irish pagans?
No.
Oh, it's the English writers, the historians and people who were there wrote that the Irish pagans had very unusual ceremonies that involved some kind of sexual activities with the horse. Yeah, you can look into it in your free time.
Like bestiality with horses.
Yes, but it was a big ceremony.
Ew.
Yeah, a big thing. Yes, very strange.
That's just gross.
Yes, paganism.
Wait.
Sounds like
So Samantha, you're saying it's good if you go back to Zoroastrianism right now in Iran. A lot of people are hanging this sign on putting it on their cars, putting it in their store window, and this is the what we call the Rafsha Kaviani. It's one of the most ancient symbols in Iranian history, and this is basically back from the Sassanid dynasty, and it's when Iranian was Zoroastrian, and a lot of is now making a comeback in Iran. Right now, if you go, a lot of people are like, there's so many videos coming out of Iran, Iranians putting this. This is basically the pre-Islamic Iran symbol, right? And I saw the video of a woman crying because she was so happy that Iranians are going back to their roots. So this is your wish is coming true in Iran right now.
This paganism in the West is not going to work. It's going to explode in their faces because we are too sophisticated today for paganism. One god is hard to disprove, but multiple gods is easy to disprove.
I don't think it's about the belief anymore, these religions. I think it's about the aesthetics and looking cool. Like it's
Yes,
like
but
going
it
to
runs out of steam, just aesthetics. Without actual belief, it's just meaningless. You know, religious people generally actually believe there's a god. That, will judge them and so on.
I believe in God.
They don't just
gravitate
like the
towards
aesthetics.
paganism.
I believe God's there.
Yeah.
Deborah, you were saying something?
I was saying I noticed that a lot of atheists gravitate towards pagan type like stuff. Like Wicca and that kind of stuff. Like you see that a lot. New Age kind of stuff. You see that a lot. The numbers, numerology stuff.
It's very Jewish.
People try to find meaning in everything, right?
There's a channel called Esoterica that talks about all these esoteric topics. It's quite good if you like that sort of stuff.
Judaism used to be like that, by the way. Judaism had multiple gods and a pantheon and higher gods and lower gods. You guys used to be cool. You guys used to be cool, but now you ruined it.
He used to have a wife and a harp player on standby, according to the documentation.
Abraham was born into a pagan family, and he became the first Jew to believe in monotheism.
The actual story is that Judaism itself was polytheistic. Judaism itself, I think it changed.
It's like a figure that sums up something that happened. I would say the guy existed, but they don't know his name, and Avram is entitled.
Yeah, the stories are mostly made up, in my opinion, but they didn't come out of a vacuum. Like is based on somebody did something that they turned into a story. Just like Muhammad's story is all made up too. There was a guy that united Arabs and they attacked the cities that belonged to the Byzantine and the Sassanid empires. His name was not Muhammad. In fact, the name Muhammad was referring to Jesus, but they then took that name and gave. No,
Was
it's
that
pretty.
during the Uthman part?
Osman is made up.
The...
Deborah, Osman, Omar, Abu Bakr, they're all made up. The
Oh
first
my
historical.
God. See, I'm just starting to learn all this stuff. So what was the part where they put it all together? I
So
forgot
the first guy that is actually. What? The first guy. The first guy in history of Islam who is actually historical is Muawiyah.
Wow, we used to read all his.
Anything before him. The guy that eventually they turned into Muhammad, we actually have some documents of his people talking about his views. His name was not Muhammad, right? But we have the earliest documents that refer to his views by other people. The guy was a Zionist by today's standard because if you read what he was fighting, he was uniting with the Jews and he believed that Jerusalem belonged to the Jews. And he was telling the Jews that we will fight with you and we will give you Jerusalem.
Yes,
so,
wow. Can you make a post with this stuff? Like, where does that come from? That's amazing.
It's a verse that's actually copied from the Jewish Torah that talks about the waiting to go into Israel, sending the spies to see what's going on in the land.
But this is a document from outside of the Islamic scripture. The document that shows this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
Because the Quran came a lot later than all of this.
Yes.
The Quran. But the Quran started its creation before Muhammad even was born. So did you know that? A lot of the text in the Quran is dated before Muhammad even existed.
Some of it is from the Torah.
Oh man,
so
they just like
some of
whipped
it is
together.
Torah, some of it is Mishnah.
No, I'm not talking about the stories, Musad. I'm not talking about the similar stories. I'm talking about the actual words, right?
So who dated the Quran, like Muslims or scholars?
Let me tell you, don't trust any Muslim sources about any of this.
Well, they can contradict themselves constantly.
Yeah, but they're not evaluating any of this through an academic, like the Islamic so-called scholars, the ulama. They're just looking at their own scripture, the Sirah and the Quran, and trying to make sense of it, which is not a very academic way of trying to make sense of what actually happened, right? So, but the interesting thing is that the Arabs who actually, so here's the story that we have been told. Both me, Ahmed, and Deborah, we're ex-Muslims here. When we were Muslims, we were told that the Arabs in the Hijaz, today Saudi Arabia, they became Muslim. After they became Muslim, they united and they grew army and they attacked the Persian Empire, the Sassanid Empire, and the Byzantine Empire. They were victorious and managed to capture the entirety of the Persian Empire and many areas from the Roman Empire, including Jerusalem. They started their own empire, right, which was an Islamic empire, right? But the story is the complete opposite, Deborah. The actual story is that. So the story that we were told is that we first had Islam, and then we had an empire, right? But the real story is they first became an empire and then they became Muslim.
Created a religion out of their empire.
When the Arabs, when they created their empire, they weren't yet Muslim.
To unite the tribe.
Oh crap!
Yes,
that makes sense. Though.
They created a branding for their new empire and rewrote their history.
Some books and stuff.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Who started that empire?
Umayyad Dynasty. It started with the Umayyad Dynasty. Like Muawiyah, he was not Muslim. He was Christian. If you look at their coins, they had crosses on them, right? If you go look at their text, they never mention Muhammad. For 100 years after the alleged death of Muhammad, these Muslims never refer. Well, I think for 70 years, yeah. They wrote a lot. It's not like they weren't writing. If Muhammad was their prophet, they have forgotten about it for 70 years because they were not referring to it. That makes sense.
In the descriptions they have of him, they're like, oh, he wasn't too tall, he wasn't too short, his skin wasn't too light, it wasn't too dark.
It was just
This,
perfect.
yeah,
Goldie's
he's perfection. Yeah.
Goldilocks. Just right. Not too tall, not too short.
There's
Just
actually,
perfect.
And the rules
I
that
wanted to
it's
say,
haram to make an image of him because he never existed.
Yeah.
Like, remove that
but
from
there
everyone.
are paintings of Muhammad with Kaib as well, apparently. There's a painting of Muhammad and Kaib. I want to say there's actually and I think the Bible is more accurate than the Quran, especially the later books, the Kings and so on. They're more historical. I want to give you an example. There's a story that we have in the Bible, but also in the Assyrian documentation about the same event. In the Bible, it goes like this. The Assyrian army surrounds Jerusalem. They don't know what to do. It's obvious they're going to lose. So they pray to God. The king prays to God. God answers him. They wake up in the morning. The Assyrians are gone. That's a story in the Bible. They're all dead. They're all gone. In the Assyrian records, the story is that they threatened the king, the Judean king, and he surrendered and agreed to a deal. So they didn't attack. But it's the same event, and it mentions the names and so on. The Jewish version is like, God saved us, but the Assyrian version, no, we just did a deal with their king. His king has lots of gold.
Interesting. Very interesting.
The event is with King Sancherib, or I don't know how you say it in English. Sancherib.
Yes.
Was the Assyrian king.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, you can. When it comes to Muhammad mythicism, if anybody's interested in that, you should read Robert Spencer's book. You got that, don't you, Armin?
Yeah, that's where I got this from.
Yes, exactly.
Which book I have?
This book is
his
just
books.
Jewish propaganda
This
to
one.
destroy Islam. The Jews paid him to
Read this
write
one.
this.
Check that out.
The Jews paid him 7K to write this.
He's Mossad 100% for sure.
The religion that the Arabs had at that time, depending on when they were, some of them was like their own local. So there was two types of religions around that area for Arabs. The ones in the Hijaz were mostly jinn worshippers, right? So jinn eventually as Islam turned into something like a demon, but for Arabs these were spirits in nature.
This is the genie in the bottle. This is where it comes from.
But for Arabs, that's just a well. Hold on, let me make my point. Right. So you know how the natives or the Mayans had spirits for different things, or like the Japanese, like Kamu. Do they call it the Japanese? The Kamu, or different like the river has its own spirit, the tree has its own kami. They have
Many
this is
ancient
what
religions are like this. Yes.
I'm like, what about commies?
kami is in Japanese religion, kind of like the spirit of different things in nature, right? Arabs had something like this, but it was jinns. And eventually, Islam turned it into something else. That was the religion of the local Arabs, and they had these mini cube like buildings that they went around to worship. The cube buildings, it wasn't just a Kaaba, is just like one. The Kaaba that we had right now, that the Muslims go there to worship, the Arabs back then they had plenty of them. There were many cube structures that they used to worship at. Those were Arab, not Abrahamic. The jinns and the cube buildings, they were Arab. That wasn't Abrahamic. But then we had these other Arabs closer to Syria and Lebanon today. They were a Judeo-Christian cult. They believed in Jesus. They were Abrahamic, but they didn't consider Jesus to be the Son of God or God. They believed Jesus was the prophet of God, right? After the Roman Empire canonized the religion of Christianity and they were set on the Trinity, all of these other Christian beliefs that didn't make it into what is now the official acceptable Christianity were driven away from the centers of Christianity, and they went outside of the areas of where the Roman Empire is, at the borders of it, where the place where Arabs were. This religion emphasized the idea, like wanted to set, if it's Christian, Usually when you have a religion that is similar to other Christian religions, but there are some differences, they really emphasize their difference because their difference is their identity. So given that the mainstream Christianity considered Jesus to be the Son of God or God, these people focused on Jesus being a prophet of God and not the Son of God. And that's what the word Muhammad means, right? Muhammad means the prophet of God, and it was referring to Jesus. This is why the Quran was obsessed with saying God has no children and Jesus was not the Son of God. The merger of these two Arab religions gave us the earlier versions of Islam. In Islam, they did two things with the jinns and the Kaaba. The jinns were so popular among Arabs that Islam couldn't get rid of them. They provided a place. Deborah and Ahmed, you know about the story of Muhammad. In the story of Muhammad, when Muhammad brought the Quran, they made it so that the jinns listened to Muhammad reciting the Quran, and the first jinns who heard it, they turned Muslim. The point of that story is to show the Arabs that the jinns that you revere, they actually became Muslim. So if they're becoming Muslim, then you should become Muslim as well. And also in the Quran, we have verses showing that there was a time where the jinns were powerful because they had access to the lowest part of the sky. The sky has 7 layers, and the one closest to Earth is where the angels are. The angels there, they speak the secrets of the universe. And the jinns could fly to that level and listen to the secrets of the universe, and that's where they got the powers. But now God is, every time you see a shooting star, is because that sky, that part of the sky has now been forbidden to the jinns. And every time you see a shooting star is because a jinn tried to go and listen to the secrets of the universe, and the angels threw a star at the jinn so that they drive them away. And this is why the jinns don't have the position they had before anymore, and they don't have the secrets of the universe, so they are not as powerful as they used to be. So you should give up on them. They're just regular people. They could be good people and bad people, but you shouldn't be worshiping them. You should be worshiping God. But what they did with the Kaaba is even more interesting, because in the Torah we have Abraham having, couldn't get a child with Sarah, so Sarah goes and gets a slave girl, Hagar, for Abraham to have a child with, and she becomes pregnant with Ishmael, and then Sarah gets jealous and they kick her out with her child. Sarah eventually has a child with Abraham, which is Isaac. And the understanding is that the Jews are the son of Isaac and Arabs are the son of Ishmael. So both the Jews and Arab are descendants of Abraham, one through Isaac and the other through Ishmael. But the story that of Ishmael and Hagar was never completed in Torah. So we know that Sarah got Abraham to kick out Hagar and Ishmael, but we don't know what happened to them. In the story of Arabs, which eventually turned into Islam, they say that Hagar and Ishmael walked all the way to Mecca, which is
So it's
insane.
fan fiction. It's fan fiction.
Yes. Yes, fan fiction. They basically continue the story, but that's insane because that's a long way to walk. Okay, all the way to, I don't know where, like, I think Abraham was
Well,
in
they
like,
also claim that the Kaaba is the same spot where Abraham built the altar. It's
that's what
not
I'm getting at.
even anywhere near it.
So Hagar and Ishmael were in the middle of the desert and they were dying from thirst and there was no water. Hagar was running around to look for water and there was a mirage and she thought she would find water, and she was running and there was no, every time she got close she realized that there's no water. And actually when Muslims go to do the Hajj, they go through the two areas where Hagar was looking for water. They actually make that walk. Ishmael was in the sand as a baby, and she was like in this desert sand, and he was crying, and he moves his feet, and right where his feet are touching the ground, all of a sudden water comes out, and that's the Zamzam, what is spring in Mecca. They say that's the miracle. The feet of Ishmael in the sand in the middle of the desert created the caused that water to come out. And that's where the city of Mecca comes from, because the city of Mecca was created around that spring of water in the middle of the desert. Another story they added is that Abraham decided to visit his son. He came to Mecca and they decided to build the Kaaba with each other, and that's where the Kaaba comes from. That's the story that the Muslims have, that's Kaaba. Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba, and the point of this story is to tell the Arabs, because For Arabs, this Abrahamic stuff was foreign religion. They were like, this is not our religion. This is not our local religion. This is something from somewhere else, right? We have jinns. We have the Kaaba. We have the buildings, and we have jinns. This Jesus, Abraham stuff is not ours, right? But the utility of these stories is that it tells the Arabs that this Kaaba that you revere so much, Abraham built it. So it's basically trying to create a bond, a connection between Abrahamic religions and the Arabs' local religions. Go on, Musa.
I wanted to
Musa.
add
Yeah.
a couple of facts and also to ask you a question. One is there's no sea between Egypt and Israel either, but it didn't stop God from parting it, which is an interesting story. When the Jews left Egypt, they had to cross a sea, but there's no sea. So
That's interesting.
yeah,
Wait, but they were,
I
it's
never
just a
saw that
desert.
before.
There's no sea
I
to
always
cross.
thought the Red Sea was there. You just assume.
The Red Sea is actually the Reed Sea. It's a mistranslation. Suf, it means Suf. It's like reeds. It's like it means it's most likely freshwater, not sea. So that's one fact. The other fact is that mythology of the jinns, the ancient pagan idea of jinns, became the thing in the story of Aladdin when he rubs the. It's actually the same thing. It's the same jinn.
So I think maybe the part of Egypt that they were running out of was like a more southern part of Egypt. That's why they had to
No,
go through the Red Sea.
because they said they were in Goshen, and Goshen is in the north.
Maybe they made
Yeah.
the detour. Maybe they just wanted to go see
That's the theory. Yes, that's the theory.
Maybe the sea was
maybe
bigger.
they just enjoyed the view of the sea. Go the
Another
long
interesting
ways.
thing is there is a place in Sinai that traditionally, for thousands of years, it's called Sukkot, which is the name of the holiday Sukkot, which we commemorate the.
Is the parting of
Exodus.
the sea not part of the Jewish narrative?
Yes,
It
it
is.
is.
It is.
A very
Well,
important
then,
part. Yes.
well then.
Yeah,
how
you're
does that
right.
work?
Actually, I've never thought about it. The Red Sea was not in the way. What the hell? Samantha, that's
There's
your
no
religion.
Red Sea. There's
Make
Reed Sea.
defend yourself.
Sorry, I
Reed
zoned out for a
Sea.
minute. What were you guys saying?
When the Jews were leaving Egypt to go for Israel,
Yeah.
the part of Egypt that they were leaving was north. The Red Sea was not in their way. So how the hell did why they had to part the Red Sea? There was no sea in their way.
It's a mix-up. It's not the Red Sea. It's the Reed Sea.
You could look at the map. You don't have to go through any sea. You could
But
just walk.
there's one theory is they're talking really about kind of swampland that had, like a swamp type situation.
This was a long time ago, Armin.
No, it
No,
didn't
come
change.
on. Like the map, no, the map doesn't
Can we
change like
look
that.
up geography
For the
to
map to
see if
change, you
their
need
sea
millions
was
of
bigger?
years, not thousand. In 2,000 years, in 3,000,
No.
the maps
I
don't
mean,
change in 3,000 years.
like a
No,
swampy
doesn't
reed
change.
sea could have been more like a lake situation back then.
Yes, it's more like a
But
lake
why
of
would
some
they have to
sort.
go through it then? You could just go around it.
God parted a swamp doesn't sound as epic.
It doesn't sound
Because
as
if they don't go through the
good.
water, then like the dogs can smell them.
It was a puddle. I removed the puddle.
We have to have a miracle in here
They wouldn't
somewhere.
get
So
their
let's go
sandals
through the
wet,
water.
Oh my
You don't want to get your sandals wet.
I don't know. I mean, they're like wheeling a bunch of shit. Like the wheels aren't gonna work in the.
But I wanted to ask, right? If you know through this stuff you've been reading, how the Chaimal kingdom mixes into this, because they have to have some influence.
Wait, what's Khmer in English or Arabic? Because I don't know what you're referring to.
Chaimal. It's where Yemen is today. It was a Jewish
Yemen.
settlement with many, many converts, and they didn't actually know the law exactly, so they used to try and get some information from Jews in other places. So they didn't follow the code exactly, but they were Jewish. You can go and look it up. It's not us.
We were not told about. We were told only about the Jews in Yesrib.
All the Yemeni people, they always claim that Yemen was like the original Arabs. I thought
they were Christian,
but that's what they claim. Oh.
So Chaimal kingdom, Himyar.
Didn't they tell us in our Islamic studies that Yemen was Christian? I thought they told us that Yemen was Christian.